Good evening, dear friends. Today, we are going to dive into the world of arterial hypertension, explore these blood vessels under excessive pressure, and figure out where the truth lies regarding our blood pressure. Some specialists, primarily younger cardiologists, and I'll explain why younger ones in a moment, argue that there is no connection between hypertension and the spine. But it's not about the spine itself. It's the nervous system that regulates everything in our body, including the tone of blood vessels. On the other hand, there's another group of specialists, particularly neurologists, who believe there may indeed be a connection. Before we conduct an investigative experiment with you in today's episode of our YouTube series, you need to see for yourself whether methods that influence the nervous system are effective or not. Can the brain and the peripheral, autonomic, sympathetic nervous system regulate our blood pressure? To test this, measure your blood pressure using a blood pressure monitor both before and after the procedures we'll discuss. Take your measurement now, write it down, and later we'll see the results. Now, friends, here's the situation. There is a group of cardiologists who strongly reject the idea that hypertension could be related to the spine, specifically the cervical spine. These specialists are often either recent university graduates or researchers focused solely on academic work, with little or no experience treating real patients. Or they are simply too young to have experienced hypertension themselves, so they may not yet understand the desire to avoid taking a handful of pills every day. They often identify as practitioners of evidence-based medicine. However, their adherence to evidence-based medicine tends to falter when dealing with real patients. What is written in textbooks and what occurs in real life do not always align. This is why practical experience is so important. Doctors who spend more time in hands-on practice, particularly those with more experience, are less dogmatic. They won't give you definitive answers like, it's only this, or it's only that. The most confident diagnoses come from doctors who have just completed their training. They haven't yet learned to doubt their conclusions. The more experience a doctor gains, the more they begin to question and explore other possible causes. They become more open to alternative methods of treatment and ways to improve health. Among such doctors are both our compatriots and international colleagues. They have conducted research and documented their findings in scientific papers. One of our compatriots, Mikhail Petrovich Savinkov, a renowned neurologist, carried out experiments that established a link between neck posture and high blood pressure. He studied various groups of people, drivers, accountants, and others, observing their posture and how it influenced their blood pressure throughout the day. He found a connection between the position of the head and elevated blood pressure. For example, when people were made to tilt their heads downward, as if looking at their phones or reading newspapers, their blood pressure increased. But when they maintained a more neutral head position throughout the day, their blood pressure remained closer to normal. Another group of scientists, neurosurgeons, identified a relationship between herniated discs, protrusions, and prolapses in the cervical spine and high blood pressure. They documented several cases where patients experienced significantly elevated blood pressure that normalized after treatment. For those interested, I have shared these two studies on my Telegram channel. You'll find the link in the description below. One study is in Russian and the other is in English. If needed, you can translate them using an online translator or an automatic tool. So, friends, what's next? Let's not waste time. We need to determine if these theories truly deserve our attention. Set aside your spoons, forks, and bowls for now. You can finish eating later. We're going to attempt to influence the systems in our body that help regulate blood pressure. What's the theory here? It involves the vertebral artery and vein. These vessels supply blood to certain parts of the body. Disruptions in the flow, where blood enters more effectively than it exits, can lead to imbalanced pressure in the body. So, what do our researcher colleagues conclude? They argue that there is a mechanical effect on the blood vessels, and it is significant enough to warrant our attention. We should use this knowledge to prevent hypertension for those who don't have it yet, and for those who do, to make some positive changes in their lives. By the way, I conducted this experiment on myself. For those who watched last year's video where I intentionally raised my blood pressure, measured it, did some exercises, and observed whether it changed, this video is a continuation of that research. You see, I've also been conducting my own experiments, and they confirm a certain connection. So, friends, what is happening in our bodies? There is an ideal position where there is no mechanical effect on the arteries or veins. It's actually very difficult to compress an artery mechanically. To completely cut off blood flow, you'd need to apply significant direct force. This is why cardiologists tend to dismiss the idea that compressing the vertebral artery could cause widespread blood pressure changes. To some extent, you can understand their skepticism. But, as it turns out, there is some degree of compression. More importantly, it's not just about the artery itself. There's irritation of the nerve plexus located around the vertebral artery. And this irritation reflexively changes the tone of the artery. Not only that, it also affects the tone of arteries throughout the body. But it turns out that the more significant effect is not on the artery, which has traditionally received more attention, but rather on the venous vessels, as they are much easier to compress. For instance, alongside the vertebral artery, the spinal vein often gets overlooked. This vein is very easily compressed and can go unnoticed. So, what happens when a vein is compressed? Blood flows to the head efficiently, but it drains poorly, disrupting the balance. As a result, the body adjusts the pressure in the system to compensate. It's similar to what happens in plumbing. For those of you who are plumbers or work with boilers or radiators, you know how important it is to maintain proper pressure to ensure the inflow matches the outflow. If something gets clogged, or if there's an air blockage, the flow and outflow become unbalanced, causing issues. The same principle applies here. The inflow of blood must equal the outflow. If there is good blood flow through the arteries, but the venous outflow is disrupted, it can lead to an increase in pressure, in particular, intracranial pressure. This, in turn, affects the overall pressure throughout the body. To explain it in simpler terms, using a plumbing analogy, imagine a general heating system. If there's a localized problem with outflow or inflow, it disrupts the pressure balance across the entire system. The same principle applies to our body. How can we address this issue? The key is not to focus on increasing blood flow, which has been the primary focus so far, and largely ineffective. We should focus on improving venous outflow. By enhancing the outflow, we can improve overall circulation. What does the research of Mikhail Petrovich Savinkov tell us? In his experiments, where participants sat in a specific posture for long periods while studying or reading, their blood pressure increased. This suggests that in such a position, blood inflow did not increase, but venous outflow was significantly hindered. Unfortunately, this posture is all too common in our daily lives. It turns out to be one of the most dangerous positions for the neck. In this posture, venous outflow becomes especially difficult, leading to increased strain on the body. Interestingly, there are many exercises available online to address this issue. These exercises typically involve stretching the back of the neck, a natural response for many people after sitting in this posture for too long. Over time, the neck muscles, constantly overloaded by the weight of the head, become strained and weak. The muscles responsible for supporting the neck in this position are the long extensors of the neck. If these muscles are well developed, it reduces the likelihood of pathological issues related to blood pressure in such a posture. Mikhail Petrovich Savinkov's research highlights the importance of strengthening these muscles. Strong neck extensors can help mitigate the negative effects of prolonged poor posture, including pressure-related symptoms. The better these muscles are developed, the less likely it is for pathological issues to arise in this position under pressure. So, friends, what should we do now? When our neck assumes this posture, the natural cervical curve, known as the lordosis, flattens over time. The passage for the vertebral artery and vein becomes more compressed, creating tension in this area. Additionally, the sympathetic nerves, which can increase vascular tone, become irritated, leading to arterial spasms. Our goal is to maintain the natural cervical lordosis, but how can we preserve it? The key lies in achieving balanced neck muscles. Which muscles are involved? First and foremost, the long extensors of the neck, located at the back, need to be strengthened. The sternocleidomastoid muscle, located at the front, plays a role in stabilizing the neck and supporting movement between the vertebrae and intervertebral joints. The scalene muscles, which can become shortened over time due to prolonged poor posture, are also important. When these muscles shorten, the lack of movement in the upper and short neck flexors can lead to further tension. The short neck flexors will automatically tighten if the long neck flexors are weak and the scalene muscles are overly tight. Let's try a simple routine. For those with high blood pressure, measure it beforehand, and then measure it again afterward to observe any changes. Write down how you feel after completing the exercises if possible. I hope everyone is able to do this. We'll begin with muscle relaxation before moving on to some gentle strengthening. We'll use rollers to relax the lower muscle groups to start. To do this, lie down on the roller, placing it under the base of your skull, the occipital area. Position it where the lower part of your hairline meets the back of your head. This is the area where the occipital bone meets the neck and serves as the attachment point for the long neck flexors. If you feel around with your hands, you'll find two small ridges of muscle on the right and left sides. Gently turn your head to the right and left like this. This motion helps relax the suboccipital muscles in this region. Focus a little more on one side than the other. Over time, this area, which is typically under constant tension, will begin to relax. Move slightly lower to the area where the neck transitions into the head, specifically the spot where the first vertebra meets the occipital bone. Gently shift your head right and left to work through this region. Continue this for about 5 minutes. Next, let's work on the sternocleidomastoid muscle. For this, you'll need to use your hands. This is your sternocleidomastoid muscle. To locate the muscle, turn your head slightly and tilt it, and its contour will become visible. Once you've identified it, use your fingers to apply a downward motion along the muscle. The sternocleidomastoid muscle has two attachment points, one at the sternum, the other at the collarbone. Start by working toward the sternum. Using your fingers, apply light pressure and glide downward along the muscle toward the chest. Then, switch to the collarbone. You're working on the surface fibers of the muscle, specifically its fascia. This helps release tension, improve mobility, and address issues like fibrosis or adhesions that may have developed due to the muscle remaining in a shortened state. Press gently with your fingers and use a downward motion along the length of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Repeat this on one side first, moving down toward the chest and between the collarbones, and then on the other side, right here, to this point, as if you're guiding your movement between the ribs. And the second part goes to the other attachment point of the muscle, directly to the rib itself. After completing this, some of you might already feel your head aligning more naturally. Your usual forward-tilted posture might begin to shift to a more physiological position. Now, let's move to the second part, the back edge of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Locate the back edge with your hands and gently pull it forward. Place your hands on the back edge, apply slight pressure, and move the muscle forward in a controlled motion. Move the sternocleidomastoid muscle forward. Lift it, tighten it, relax it, tighten it again, relax it, and repeat this process. Repeat the same process, but this time work slightly higher, up to the top edge of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, where it attaches to the mastoid process. Perform this motion on one side, then switch to the other side. Also, work with the back edge of this muscle by shifting it forward. Shift it forward gently, ensuring the movement is controlled and consistent. The goal here is to make the muscle mobile, preventing the fascia from fusing with surrounding tissues. Move it back and forth as well as side to side to encourage flexibility. Next, locate the front edge of the muscle. Place your thumb on the front edge and push it slightly back, but not directly inward. Instead, apply gentle pressure outward to avoid pressing on the carotid artery. Pressing there could make you feel lightheaded. Push outward in small movements, repeating the process on both sides. Repeat the same process on the other side, moving the sternocleidomastoid muscle gently from right to left to improve its mobility. Then, use both hands to grasp the muscle, applying gentle pressure. Work it out with your fingers, starting at the upper part, then moving slightly lower, and finally working on the lowest section. Those who can may isolate and grasp the section of the muscle that connects to the chest and clavicle. Massage and work out the sternocleidomastoid muscle thoroughly on one side, then do the same on the other. Once this is done, we'll move to the scalene muscles. To locate the scalene muscles, turn your head and find the back edge of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Right behind this edge, you'll feel the scalene muscle group, which includes the anterior, middle, and posterior scalenes. Using your fingers, move along the back edge of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, down to the middle of the upper edge of the collarbone. Focus on this area, working your fingers gently down the muscle. If the scalene muscles or fascia in this area are particularly tight, you might feel a sensation that radiates toward your ear. Don't worry, this is normal. Work through the scalene muscles on one side first. Apply light pressure. Move your fingers downward along the muscle. Repeat this press and move motion several times. Then switch to the other side and repeat the process, ensuring both sides are thoroughly worked. This is how we work to release the tension and shortening in the scalene muscles. Now, let's move on to stretching. What needs to be stretched? Many people feel the need to stretch certain muscles, but it's crucial to do it correctly. Avoid pulling or stretching in this way. This exercise is very dangerous. Stretching the neck muscles incorrectly can increase instability. It may cause your natural cervical lordosis to flatten and even turn into kyphosis. This reduces the space available for your blood vessels, impairing their normal function. For those who still want to stretch safely, here's a proper technique. Gently push your jaw forward while aiming to lift your chin toward the ceiling. Stretch, then relax. Stretch, then relax. Repeat this movement a few times. If you've never done this before, you'll likely feel that the entire area is very tight and tense. This tension is common because prolonged poor posture causes the tissues to harden and tighten over time. In addition to stretching the muscles, this exercise can also improve lymphatic drainage in the neck area. For anyone concerned about a double chin, or even a triple chin, this exercise may help tone the area and reduce its appearance over time. So, friends, we've now completed a series of muscle relaxation techniques to improve blood circulation. Next, we'll strengthen the muscles that are underdeveloped. Here's the main exercise you can regularly perform to train your neck muscles. I'll show you a few variations and also highlight a common mistake people make. I will also demonstrate which one. For this exercise, you'll need a pillow. A regular pillow will work just fine. Lie on your back and place your head on the pillow. Your task is simple. Press your head into the pillow as if you're gently pushing it backward. The effort should be moderate. You don't need to strain yourself or apply 100% effort. Aim for about 30 to 40% of your maximum strength with a maximum of 50%. The pressure should be applied gradually. Think of it as gently pressing into the pillow. Once you reach the final position, hold your head there for about 5 seconds. Hold and then slowly relax. Press gently, hold for 5 seconds, and then relax. It's important to perform this exercise correctly. A common mistake people make is pressing their chin into their chest while pushing the back of the head into the pillow. There are many exercises that recommend this type of movement, but it's not ideal. This means pressing the chin straight down and pushing back with the back of the head. This is how I demonstrated initially, maintaining the natural position of the head relative to the neck. When you avoid pressing the chin, your neck flexors engage, including the weakest part, the lower neck flexors. When you press your chin tightly downward and push with the back of your head, you train your neck muscles to work in an unnatural position. You need to ensure that all the vertebrae are in their correct natural position. Therefore, review the incorrect exercises and focus on maintaining the correct natural alignment of all the vertebrae. Incorrect exercises, like pressing the chin down and pushing the head back, can lead to discomfort or even headaches over time. This includes all exercises where you attempt to press. This includes all exercises where you attempt to pull the barbell in this position. It's the same as if you dropped your head. You end up in the same position. These movements stretch the long flexors of the neck while shortening the front neck muscles, which is the opposite of what we want to achieve. To do this correctly, place your head on the pillow without pulling your chin downward. Maintain the natural alignment of your head and neck. Gently push your head backward, ensuring the movement aligns with the natural curve of your spine. If needed, tilt your head slightly backwards so the line of the chin aligns with the lower jaw, as if your chin is looking slightly upward. Now press gently with your head. Hold the position for 3 to 5 seconds and then slowly relax. Repeat. Press, hold, and relax. Next, you can increase the load on the neck muscles individually, targeting the right and left sides. To do this, turn your head slightly to one side and press it backward. For example, when you turn your nose to the left muscles will engage more actively. The same applies to the right side. You may notice that the muscles on one side perform better than those on the other. This is normal. The total number of repetitions should remain the same for both sides. For instance, if one side can handle 10 repetitions in a row, but the other side tires after 5, take a short break and then complete the remaining 5. This exercise targets the long neck flexors and is considered beginner level. For a more advanced exercise, you can use a higher or firmer pillow. Push your head back as before, but now assist yourself by using your hands to slightly lift your shoulder blades off the surface. Once lifted, gently lay the shoulder blades back down. Repeat this process. Lift slightly using your elbows and forearms, and then lower back down. However, this more advanced exercise is not recommended for individuals with hypertension. It is better suited for those without this condition. Now let's focus on the lateral anterior muscle groups, which we previously relaxed. For this exercise, lie on your side and extend your arm forward. With your nose, look toward your elbow. Begin lifting and lowering your head slowly. Repeat this motion. Lift, lower, lift, lower. During this exercise, your pectoral muscles, some of the scalene muscles, and the muscles that lift the scapula will be engaged. Perform 10 repetitions on each side. Here, your pectoralis major muscle is working, along with a few other muscles, including part of the latissimus dorsi and the muscles that lift the scapula. These exercises are important for maintaining optimal blood flow to the neck. Over time, they can help improve blood circulation and may positively impact hypertension. Another area where blood flow is often restricted is under the small pectoral muscle. A vascular nerve bundle runs beneath this muscle. This is why there is debate about the theory of mechanical vessel compression. The focus is often placed on arterial compression, but more frequently, it is the veins in the nerves regulating vascular tone that are compressed. The small pectoral muscle also plays a role here. Beneath it lies a vascular nerve bundle that includes an artery, a vein, lymphatic vessels, and a nerve. To relax this muscle, you can use your hands. Locate the small pectoral muscle and gently massage it. Alternatively, you can use a massage ball, such as a tennis ball, if you're trying this for the first time. Place the ball near the muscle and stand against a wall. Roll the ball gently over the area, focusing on any sore spots. Once you find a tender spot, stay on it for about a minute. Press and move the ball back and forth to work out the muscle. The small pectoral muscle originates from the clavicle and attaches to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ribs. And beneath it, you can see where everything passes, a vessel along with a nerve bundle. The most vulnerable spots for vessel compression include the canal, where the vertebral artery and vein pass, the area where the first vertebra connects with the occipital bone, the region beneath the small pectoral muscle, where the vascular nerve bundle resides. Compression in these areas primarily affects veins and nerves rather than arteries. Maintaining these regions in good condition is essential to ensure proper circulation. And of course, it's beneficial to stretch the small pectoral muscle as well. Simply position your hand like this and gently stretch it. You can also stretch it this way. Hold the stretch briefly, then relax. It's better to avoid creating constant tension. Instead, stretch the muscle gradually and then relax. You can do this in a doorway or a corner. You can do this in a doorway or a corner. Stand in the corner, place your hands in a lower position and stretch. Then relax. Repeat the same in an upper position. In the doorway, place your hands low, stretch, and relax. Then repeat with your hands in a higher position. This stretching helps release excess tension in the small pectoral muscle, which is often under strain. Now, why do cardiologists often dismiss the idea of increased blood pressure being linked to mechanical vessel compression? The issue is a lack of clear explanation. Many specialists believe that vascular tone is influenced by both the nervous system and mechanical obstacles along the vessel's paths. Cardiologists, however, tend to focus on intravascular issues, such as atherosclerotic plaques, which obstruct blood flow from inside the vessel. They often overlook extravascular compression, where something outside the vessel, like a muscle or nerve, compresses it. Let me clarify. It's nearly impossible to compress an artery through external means. A spasm strong enough to compress an artery is unlikely. But veins and nerves are far more susceptible to compression. When a vein is compressed and venous outflow is disrupted, the inflow is also affected. This disruption of circulation caused by impaired venous outflow, for example from the head, can significantly impact the overall blood circulation system. There are a few key areas where the vessels may become compressed. The first is the location where the vertebral artery passes through its canal, alongside the vein. In this area, irritation and splitting of the artery frequently occur, along with the possibility of reflex spasms and vein compression. The junction between the first vertebra and the occipital bone, where venous outflow, rather than inflow, is primarily disrupted. The small pectoral muscle, which can compress the vascular nerve bundle beneath it. The legs, where venous outflow can be impaired by spasms in the pectineus muscle or weakness in the calf muscles. These disruptions collectively impair general circulation and contribute to increased vascular tone.